The chamber was vast, built from black stone that seemed to drink the light. Strange banners hung from the walls, written in alien scripts no human eye had ever read. Around a long circular table, 12 beings sat in silence. Their shapes were different, some with scales, some with feathers, others cloaked in shifting shadows. Each one belonged to a species that had ruled its corner of the galaxy for thousands of years. Together they called themselves the Council of Dominion. But tonight, their silence was heavy. The air itself trembled with unease. For the first time in history, they had allowed a human into this chamber. And the human did not look afraid. He sat at the end of the table, his hands folded calmly. His dark eyes scanned the creatures one by one. Every council member had expected him to tremble, to stutter, to break under their stares. Yet, he sat still. Too still. The reptilian lord named Zarkoth broke the silence first. His voice was deep, like rocks grinding together. The matter is simple. The human colonies must be contained. Their expansion is dangerous. Their technology is unpredictable. They are young, reckless, and undisciplined. If left unchecked, they will spread like fire. Several heads nodded. A being with wings of crystal clicked her beak. Yes. Fire consumes everything. Their kind threatens balance. We must strike now. Erase their fleets before they rise further. The human did not move. Not even a twitch. Only his eyes gleamed faintly in the chamber's light. Another voice spoke, soft but venomous. It came from a shadowy figure whose form could not be seen clearly. You all know what they did on Archeon Prime. A planet defended by our strongest fleet. And yet, the humans broke through. They destroyed our blockade with ships made from scrap. They used desperation as a weapon. What they lack in age, they make up for in unpredictability. If we allow this species to continue, they will become unstoppable. The council began to murmur. Words like extermination and containment filled the air. Some wanted war. Others wanted control. At last, the chair at the center of the table turned toward the human. A massive creature sat there, taller than all the others, with golden armor fused into its skin. The High Chancellor. His voice was calm, but the weight of command silenced everyone. Human, the Chancellor said slowly. You have heard the charges. Your species is too dangerous. Too wild. Too a human. Tell us, why should we not act now? Why should we not crush Earth before it spreads further? For the first time, the man spoke. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the air like a blade. You gathered here tonight to decide the fate of my people. You think we don't know? You think we haven't heard your whispers in the shadows? You want to conspire against Earth. You want to burn us before we can stand. The council shifted uncomfortably. But here is the truth, the man continued. His hands finally moved, folding on the table as he leaned forward. You are afraid. You, the rulers of 1,000 worlds, are afraid of a species that has barely touched the stars. You fear us not because of what we are today, but because of what we will become tomorrow. His words echoed in the chamber. The silence that followed was sharper than any blade. Zarkoth hissed angrily. You dare speak to us like this? We could crush your planet in a single cycle. The human's eyes locked on him. Then why haven't you? The reptile froze. No answer came. The man continued, his tone calm, steady, but carrying a dangerous edge. Because deep inside, you know the truth. You know what humans are capable of. You know that when cornered, we don't surrender. We fight. And when we fight, we learn. We adapt. We grow. Faster than any of you can imagine. A ripple of unease spread around the table. The human's words carried weight because every species present had heard the stories. Tiny human fleets defeating armadas. Soldiers fighting even when their bodies should have failed. Colonies surviving against impossible odds. The man leaned back, his gaze sweeping over them all. You can choose war. You can choose to strike Earth. But remember this, every attempt to break us will only forge us stronger. Every blow will only harden our resolve. You will not destroy us. You will create the very thing you fear most. The High Chancellor's golden eyes narrowed. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. The man stood, slow and deliberate. His voice dropped to a whisper that still carried across the chamber. You asked why you should not crush Earth. The answer is simple. Because the moment you try, will be the moment you realize that humanity was never the prey. Humanity was always the storm. And with that, silence fell again. A silence thick with fear, doubt, and the first spark of something far more dangerous, respect. The council, once united in its decision, now found itself divided. And the human in the room had changed everything. The chamber slowly emptied after the human's departure. The council members did not speak to one another as they left. Their faces, scales, feathers, or shifting shadows, were all marked with the same emotion. Unease. The human's words had struck deeper than they wanted to admit. His calmness had been unsettling. His certainty, terrifying. And yet, not all of them were convinced. Far from the table, in the dim corridors of the Dominion fortress, two figures lingered in whispers. One was Zarkoth, the reptilian warlord whose claws still trembled with anger. The other was the shadowed being, a creature made of living smoke. You saw them, Zarkoth growled. They hesitate. They doubt. They are weak. This council has grown soft. But I am not blind. Humanity must be crushed now. If we wait, we will regret it. The shadow shifted, its voice cold and quiet. I agree. The Chancellor pretends to listen to reason, but his hesitation is dangerous. The humans will rise, and when they do, they will not stop. Their eyes, or what passed for them, met in silent agreement. A plan was already forming. Meanwhile, far across the stars, Earth had not been idle. The man who had stood before the council was not just any representative. His name was Commander Elias Vey. He had seen war before. He had lost friends, family, even his own homeworld colony to alien raids years ago. When he returned from the chamber, he carried more than just words. He carried warnings. At Earth Command, deep beneath the mountains of Old Colorado, generals and scientists gathered around him. Holographic maps filled the room, displaying star systems, ship routes, and alien fleet positions. They were ready to strike, Elias said firmly. They will not admit it openly, but some already plot against us. I saw it in their eyes. The council is fractured, but that makes them even more dangerous. We cannot wait for their decision. We must prepare. General Ramirez, a broad-shouldered woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. Prepare how? Our fleets are smaller than theirs. Our weapons, still years behind. If they launch a full-scale attack, we won't survive. Elias's voice hardened. Then we do what humans have always done. We turn weakness into strength. We fight smart. We fight unexpected. We make them regret underestimating us. The room fell into silence. Everyone knew he was right. Humanity could not outnumber the alien empires. But humanity could outthink them. Across the next weeks, Earth moved in shadows. Factories that once built civilian ships were refitted for war. Scientists worked day and night, pushing technology past safe limits. Soldiers trained not just for battle, but for survival. In orbit, a hidden fleet was being forged. Ships cobbled together from whatever materials could be found, yet equipped with weapons designed to strike hard and vanish before the enemy could react. Guerrilla warfare, but in the stars. And still, no one outside the High Command knew the truth. To the public, life continued. But whispers spread. People sensed something coming. Something vast. Something terrifying. Back in the Dominion fortress, Zarkoth and the shadow creature continued their secret meetings. They gathered allies in silence, species who hated humans, or feared them the most. Promises were made. Fleets were pledged. They think the Chancellor will protect the humans, Zarkoth hissed. Let them believe it. We will not wait for his orders. We will strike first, in secret. By the time they realize, Earth will already burn. The shadow replied, voice dripping like poison. Yes. And when the Chancellor finally acts, it will be too late. Humanity will be nothing but ash. But they underestimated one thing, the human they had just faced. Commander Elias had already expected betrayal. He knew councils, politics, and the whispers of the powerful. And so, he had already set traps. Hidden satellites now drifted in the void, listening. Small probes recorded strange fleet movements. Slowly, a picture formed. The conspiracy was real. One evening, as Elias stood alone in the viewing deck of the orbital station, he looked down at Earth. Lights sparkled across the planet like stars themselves. Billions of lives. Billions of hopes. He whispered to himself. They think they can conspire in shadows. They think we are prey. But they don't understand. Humanity was born in struggle. Every storm we faced only made us stronger. And when they come for us, we will be ready. Far away, the stars seemed to shimmer. Somewhere in the darkness, alien fleets began to gather. Quietly, silently, preparing to erase a world. But the storm was already forming on Earth. And when it rose, it would shake the galaxy. The night over Earth was calm. Cities glowed beneath the stars, unaware of the danger racing toward them. In the silence of deep space, far beyond the moon, shadows moved. Alien warships, cloaked in darkness, crept forward like predators hunting prey. Zarkotha's voice echoed across his fleet's command bridge. The Council hesitates. We do not. Tonight, Earth burns. His sharp claws tapped against the console as thousands of ships slid into formation. They had traveled in silence, using secret routes, their engines hidden from human sensors. They believed no one would see them coming. On Earth, alarms suddenly screamed in hidden military stations. A signal appeared on the screens of Orbital Command. Dozens, then hundreds, of red blips entered Earth system. General Ramirez slammed her fist onto the table. They're here. Commander Elias Vey, standing at her side, did not look surprised. His voice was cold and steady. Just as expected. He had prepared for this moment. The conspirators thought they were unseen, but Elias had already placed satellites in the asteroid belt, disguised as debris. Those silent watchers had tracked the alien fleet long before it reached Earth. Humanity had only hours to prepare, but hours were enough. Above the planet, hidden in the shadow of the moon, Earth's first strike fleet came alive. Their ships were smaller, weaker, patched together from whatever technology they had. But they carried something the aliens did not, strategy born from desperation. Elias's orders spread across every channel. They believe we are blind. Make them regret it. Begin Operation Eclipse. As the alien fleet closed in, they expected to find Earth defenseless. Instead, explosions erupted among them. Mines, hidden in the asteroid fields, tore through their forward ranks. Ships shattered into flames before they even realized they had been trapped. Zarkoth roared in fury. Ambush! The humans knew. From the shadow of the moon, human ships darted out like knives. They were small, quick, impossible to hit. They fired missiles and railguns, striking hard before vanishing into cover. The aliens fired back, their weapons cutting through the void, but they hit nothing but empty space. The humans were ghosts, appearing and disappearing, always one step ahead. On Earth, the people watched the skies as streaks of light flared across the heavens. Panic spread in cities as the war finally reached their world. But in command centers, determination burned stronger than fear. General Ramirez barked orders. Keep them away from the atmosphere. Do not let a single warship break through. 4 hours, the battle raged. Alien ships far outnumbered the humans, yet every move they made was anticipated. Every trap they set was turned against them. The humans fought not for territory, not for conquest, but for survival. And survival gave them strength no alien could measure. On the bridge of his ship, Elias stood unmoving, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. His voice never rose, never wavered. They came here believing we were weak. Show them what happens when you corner humanity. The battle reached its peak when the aliens finally broke through the mines and shadows. Hundreds of their ships surged forward toward Earth, desperate to crush the planet before it could resist any longer. Elias gave the final order. Release the storm. From hidden platforms around the planet, a new kind of weapon fired. Projectiles coated in magnetic fields tore through alien shields. EMP bursts shut down their systems mid-battle, leaving massive warships dead in the water. Human ships swarmed them like wolves, tearing the giants apart piece by piece. For the first time, Zarkoth felt fear. His fleet was larger, his weapons stronger, but the humans were unpredictable. They used tactics no alien had ever seen, turning asteroids into weapons, using decoys to trick sensors, sacrificing ships to gain the advantage. This cannot be, Zarkoth roared, watching as half his fleet burned in the dark. They are primitives. But primitives were winning. As dawn broke on Earth, the sky above was filled with streaks of falling fire. Alien wreckage rained down, burning as it entered the atmosphere. Cities watched as the heavens themselves lit up with victory. When the last alien ships retreated into the void, broken and humiliated, Earth stood alive. Scarred, but alive. Inside the command center, cheers erupted. Soldiers embraced. Civilians wept with relief. Humanity had survived the first strike. Elias, however, did not smile. He stood quietly, staring at the stars where the enemy had fled. He knew this was only the beginning. The conspirators would not stop. They would come again, in greater numbers, with deadlier weapons. But now, the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity was no prey. Humanity was a storm. And the storm had only just begun. The battle was over, but the scars remained. Across the surface of Earth, people woke to skies filled with smoke trails and falling debris. Pieces of alien ships burned as they entered the atmosphere, some crashing into oceans, others scattering across forests and deserts. The world had never seen such a sight before, the wreckage of a galactic armada scattered across its skies. News networks played images of fiery streaks cutting across the heavens. Civilians in every city stood outside, staring upward in silence. Children pointed with wide eyes, not knowing whether to fear or celebrate. For the first time, Earth had witnessed war among the stars. But the victory had come at a cost. In the ruins of orbital stations, crews drifted silently in shattered metal. Entire human ships had been lost in the ambush, their names already whispered as legends. Families waited for news of loved ones, clinging to hope that rescue pods might still be found. Commander Elias Vey stood in a dim corridor of the orbital command station, his uniform torn and burned. Around him, wounded soldiers lay on stretchers, doctors rushing from one to another. The smell of smoke, oil, and blood filled the air. General Ramirez approached him, her expression hard, though her eyes carried sorrow. We held them off. Earth is safe, for now. Elias nodded slowly. His voice was low. Safe, but not unbroken. She looked at him closely. You knew this was coming. You expected it. I knew they would not stop with words, Elias replied. The council is divided. Some will argue against war. But the conspirators, they will not forgive this defeat. They will return, with more than just a secret strike. Ramirez's jaw tightened. Then we have to be ready, no matter the cost. And so, Earth began to change. Factories that once built cars and ships for trade now forged war machines. Engineers worked without rest, combining human technology with scavenged alien parts from the wreckage. Pieces of enemy ships were studied in underground labs, their weapons dismantled, their engines taken apart. Slowly, humanity began to unlock secrets of the galaxy. In cities, civilians joined massive training programs. Ordinary men and women became soldiers, pilots, engineers, medics. The idea of Earth united under one flag, once only a dream, was becoming real. Borders blurred. Old rivalries seemed small compared to the threat from the stars. But even as Earth grew stronger, fear whispered in every home. People remembered the sight of alien fire raining down. They remembered the tremors of explosions that shook the ground. Every night, many looked at the stars not with wonder, but with dread. In quiet moments, Elias felt the same fear. He stood often on the command deck, staring at Earth from orbit, whispering the same thought over and over: how long until they return? Meanwhile, in the far reaches of space, pieces of alien wreckage floated silently. Among them, survivors of Zarkotha's fleet gathered. Small groups of damaged ships limped back to Dominion space, carrying stories of humiliation. The conspirators were furious. In the secret chambers of the Dominion fortress, Zarkoth slammed his claws against the council table. They made fools of us. A primitive world, a child among stars, turned our fleet into ash. The Chancellor laughs at us now. He believes humans can be equal. He must be silenced. The shadow being's form twisted angrily. We underestimated them once. We will not again. This time, we will gather more. More fleets. More allies. Enough to crush not just Earth, but every human colony, every trace of their existence. A silence followed. Then, slowly, others in the shadows agreed. Promises of vengeance filled the chamber. Plans of fire and destruction whispered in the dark. But even in their rage, there was something they could not erase: the fear planted by a single human voice in the council chamber. The thought that perhaps humanity truly was different. Dangerous. Unstoppable. Back on Earth, Elias sat alone in his quarters. A datapad rested in his hands, filled with reports of ships lost, soldiers gone, families waiting for answers. He felt the weight of each name. Victory tasted like ashes. He closed his eyes and whispered, "They will come again. Stronger. Smarter. But so will we." Outside his window, Earth turned slowly beneath him. A planet scarred, but alive. A planet that had survived the storm, and was preparing for the next. Because the galaxy had already conspired against humanity. And humanity was only beginning to conspire back. Far beyond the edge of human space, stars lit the darkness with cold fire. In those distant systems, a storm gathered. Zarkoth stood on the command deck of a massive dreadnought, its black hull stretching for miles. Around him, fleets of every shape filled the void. Ships with wings of crystal, vessels made of living metal, war machines built from fire and shadow. Species that had once fought one another now united under one purpose: the destruction of Earth. Zarkotha's voice thundered through the fleet channels. The humans shamed us once. They humiliated our warriors. No more. We will strike with a force so great the galaxy itself will tremble. Earth will burn, and no trace of their kind will remain. The shadow being beside him whispered like smoke. The council cannot stop us now. We gathered this army in secret. By the time the Chancellor learns, humanity will already be ash. The fleets moved in silence, thousands of ships ready for war. For the first time in centuries, the conspirators had united their hatred. And all of it was aimed at one small blue world. On Earth, the skies were calm, but humanity knew better. Deep beneath mountains, inside hidden bases, in orbital shipyards, preparations never stopped. Commander Elias Vey stood in the war room, staring at the holographic map. Red dots spread across it, enemy fleets detected by probes at the edge of human space. There were so many, more than even his darkest predictions. General Ramirez's voice was hard. If this invasion reaches us, we won't survive. Not with numbers like that. Elias did not look away from the glowing map. Then we won't let them reach us. The generals turned to him. What are you suggesting? He pressed a hand to the console. We take the fight to them. Hit them before they arrive. Not with strength, we don't have that. But with speed, with surprise. If they want a storm, we'll give them one they never expected. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what it meant. Humanity had fought defensively so far, ambushing, hiding, striking from the shadows. But now Elias was proposing something new. Something dangerous. A counter-strike. Across Earth and her colonies, preparations quickened. Hidden fleets, forged from desperation and stolen alien technology, began to move. Crews trained to operate in silence, ready to strike deep behind enemy lines. Still, fear lingered. In cities across Earth, people watched the news with tight faces. They knew the aliens were coming. They had seen the wreckage of the first battle. They had buried the dead. And yet, beneath the fear, something else grew: unity. For the first time in history, Earth's nations stood together. No more divisions, no more rivalries. Humanity was no longer just a planet. It was a single force. Meanwhile, the alien armada pushed closer. Along the way, they destroyed small colonies, burning them without mercy. Survivors' messages reached Earth, filled with fear and warning. They are coming. Thousands of ships. Whole worlds fall before them. Zarkoth listened with pride as reports poured in. We leave nothing behind. Let humanity see their doom approaching. But not all aliens agreed. Far away, in the Dominion Council, debates raged. The Chancellor slammed his golden fist against the table. This is madness. Zarkoth leads them to destruction. Humanity is dangerous, yes, but this invasion will only feed the fire. Yet his words fell on deaf ears. The conspirators moved faster than diplomacy. Back in human command, Elias prepared his crew. Standing before a group of young soldiers and pilots, he spoke in a calm, steady voice. The armada they send is greater than anything we've faced. They believe numbers win wars. They believe size decides survival. But they don't understand humanity. They don't understand that every time we're struck, we rise stronger. Every loss makes us sharper. Every wound makes us harder to kill. His gaze swept the room, meeting the eyes of men and women who knew they might not live to see another dawn. Remember this, they come with fleets. We come with fury. And fury is harder to stop than any ship. The soldiers answered with silence, not of fear, but of resolve. As the alien fleets crossed the outer rim of human space, hidden human strike groups launched. Small, fast ships cut through supply lines. Mines drifted into enemy paths. Whole squadrons disappeared into nebulas, waiting for ambush. Zarkoth laughed when he heard the first reports. Let them strike. What can a few insects do against the storm we bring? But as days passed, frustration grew. Fleets slowed. Supply lines faltered. And everywhere they turned, humans appeared from the shadows, striking, vanishing, leaving destruction behind. Elias had lit the storm. But he knew this was only the beginning. The true battle was coming. The armada was still moving forward. And Earth, scarred but unbroken, was waiting. The alien armada crept closer to Earth with every passing day. Thousands of warships darkened the stars, each one ready to erase humanity from existence. On their bridges, commanders spoke with confidence, their voices heavy with pride. But far behind their lines, something stirred. A small fleet of human ships, no larger than shadows in the void, slipped through hidden routes. Their engines were silent, their signals masked. They carried no flags, no markings, only determination. At the head of this fleet was Commander Elias Vey. The mission was simple in words, but near impossible in action. Strike at the heart of the enemy fleet before it reached Earth. Inside the dim command deck of his ship, Elias looked over the map glowing on the console. Red icons filled it, marking alien fleets and supply stations. He tapped one of them, a massive fuel depot orbiting a dead star. This, he said, his voice calm, feeds the invasion. Without these reserves, their warships cannot push through human space. We don't need to destroy their armada, we only need to starve it. The young pilot beside him swallowed hard. Sir, that depot is guarded by at least 100 ships. Elias's eyes never left the map. Then we'll have to be smarter than 100 ships. The fleet moved. Hidden by asteroid fields and electromagnetic storms, the human ships crept toward their target. Each crew knew what was at stake. If they failed, Earth would face the full force of the Armada. If they succeeded, they might buy humanity the time it needed to survive. As they approached, the alien depot came into view. It was massive, towers of black steel stretching into space, glowing with the energy of fuel drawn from nearby stars. Warships circled it like vultures, their weapons scanning the dark. Elias gave the order. We strike fast. No hesitation. Once it burns, we scatter. They cannot catch what they cannot see. The first wave launched. Human ships darted forward, small and sharp, unleashing volleys of missiles. Explosions tore through the guard perimeter, lighting up the void. Alien commanders shouted in panic, their fleets scrambling to respond. But the humans were already gone, vanishing into the asteroid belt before fire could reach them. Then, from another direction, a second wave attacked, railguns punching holes through storage tanks, turning the depot into a storm of fire. Within minutes, the fuel reserves that were meant to power the invasion for months erupted into flames. The shockwave tore through alien defenses, scattering them like leaves in the wind. Zarkoth, aboard his flagship miles away, received the reports. His eyes blazed with fury. The humans dare strike us in our own territory? Find them. Hunt them. Tear them apart. But the humans had already melted into the shadows. By the time alien reinforcements arrived, the depot was gone, nothing but wreckage spinning in the void. Elias stood on the deck of his ship, watching the fire burn across the stars. His face was calm, but his heart carried the weight of every soldier who would not return. Not all their ships had escaped. Some had sacrificed themselves to make sure the depot fell. He whispered softly, "Your deaths won us time. Earth will remember." Meanwhile, across the alien armada, chaos spread. Without fuel, fleets slowed. Without supplies, plans faltered. For the first time, the massive invasion seemed vulnerable. The shadow being hissed in frustration during a secret meeting. They cut us where it hurts most. How can primitives strike so deep? Zarkoth slammed his claws against the table. Because they are cowards. They hide, they skulk in shadows. But shadows cannot save them forever. We still have numbers. We will still crush them. Yet even as he roared, doubt spread among the conspirators. Humanity was not fighting like any enemy they had faced. They were unpredictable, reckless, willing to sacrifice. Back on Earth, the news of the mission spread in whispers. The public did not know the full details, but they heard enough, that human ships had struck the enemy deep in their own territory, destroying supplies meant for the invasion. For the first time, fear began to turn into hope. General Ramirez met Elias in the command chamber when he returned. Her eyes carried both pride and exhaustion. You bought us time. Weeks, maybe months. Enough to prepare Earth's defenses. Elias nodded, his face unreadable. They will come again. Stronger. But now they know, we are not prey. We can strike anywhere, even in their own heart. Ramirez allowed herself the smallest of smiles. And that fear will spread faster than their fleets. Elias turned to the stars beyond the window. He could almost feel the storm gathering again, heavier than before. But he also felt something else, a spark that could grow into a fire no armada could put out. Humanity had taken the war into the enemy's hands. And the galaxy was beginning to realize that nothing would ever be the same. The sky above Earth burned again. Even with their supply lines shattered, even with fleets slowed by chaos, the alien armada came. Thousands of ships blackened the stars, their engines glowing like an approaching storm. The conspirators had sworn vengeance, and now they brought their fury straight to humanity's home. On the surface of Earth, people gathered in silence. Families held each other close. Soldiers kissed children goodbye. Civilians crowded around screens, watching the dark cloud of war approach from the heavens. Every person on Earth knew this could be the last sunrise they would ever see. In orbit, the human fleet assembled. Hundreds of ships, some newly forged, others patched together from wreckage, stood ready. They were small compared to the vast alien armada, but their formation carried something stronger than numbers. It carried defiance. Inside the flagship, Commander Elias Vey stood at the command deck. His face was calm, his voice steady, though the weight of history pressed on his shoulders. General Ramirez stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "They outnumber us 10-1, she said. Elias nodded. "Then each of us will have to fight like 10. The order was given. The battle began. Alien warships surged forward in waves, unleashing torrents of fire. Human ships scattered, breaking formation, weaving through the onslaught like shadows. Missiles streaked through the void, mines ignited in sudden bursts, and human fighters swarmed enemy ships, striking from impossible angles. The aliens roared in frustration. They had expected a desperate defense, but what they faced was a storm. Every trap, every ambush, every strike was precise. Humanity had learned, adapted, and turned the battlefield into their weapon. Still, the cost was terrible. Ships fell, burning as they crumbled into silence. Soldiers gave their lives to protect Earth's skies. Every victory was paid for with sacrifice. On the surface, anti-orbital cannons hidden in mountains unleashed beams of light, striking enemy warships that broke through. Cities trembled as wreckage fell from above, fire raining across oceans and plains. Humanity fought not only in space, but from the very soil of their world. In the heart of the battle, Elias gave his final order. Release the storm. From hidden platforms orbiting behind the moon, humanity's last weapon emerged. Massive rail cannons forged from both human and alien technology. They fired in unison, their shots tearing through the largest enemy dreadnoughts. The sky lit with explosions so bright they turned night into day. Zarkoth, watching from his flagship, roared in disbelief. Impossible! They are only humans. His ship shuddered under the impact of human fire. Systems failed, alarms blared, and for the first time, fear clawed at his chest. On the bridge, Elias spoke calmly, his voice carrying through every channel. You thought Earth would fall. You thought humanity was weak. But you forgot the truth. Every storm we faced only made us stronger. And today, we are the storm that breaks you. The final clash tore through the stars. Human ships, battered and burning, pushed into the enemy's heart. Alien vessels collapsed under relentless strikes. One by one, the armada faltered. The mighty fleet that had been promised to erase Earth was now in retreat. At last, Zarkotha's flagship exploded in fire, consumed by the very storm he had sworn to unleash. When the dust cleared, the stars were filled with wreckage. Human ships floated broken, but Earth still turned below, alive. Against all odds, against every prediction, humanity had survived. Inside the command deck, silence reigned. General Ramirez closed her eyes, whispering, "It's over." Elias did not answer immediately. He looked out at the stars, filled with fire and debris. He thought of the lives lost, the sacrifices made. Finally he spoke, his voice soft but unyielding. "No. It has only begun." He turned to the crew, his gaze steady. "The galaxy thought we were prey. Today we proved we are not. We stood against empires and survived. Now they know the truth. Humanity is no longer a shadow in the dark. Humanity is a force. A storm. And storms do not bow." On Earth below, the people raised their eyes to the skies, where the fires of victory burned. Hope spread like light across the world. For the first time, humanity did not see the stars with fear. They saw them as their future. The conspirators were broken, but whispers would spread. Other species would remember. Some would fear. Some would envy. But all would respect. Because the humans had changed everything. The galaxy had conspired against Earth. And the human in the room had changed the galaxy forever.